I've loved romance for over a decade. In that decade plus of reading romance, can't help but notice how much the genre has changed. Now, obviously, happily ever afters are always going to be at the forefront of the genre. The kinds of romances that are popular, from tropes to genres, honestly kind of night and day, or at least that's what I think. So today, I'm gonna put my theories to the test by reading the romances that were popular a decade ago and read the top 10 nominees in the Goodreads Choice Awards in the category of romance in the year 2015. Because of course I could go back and read my old favorites from 2015. Actually, I already did that over on Patreon. If you want to check that out, I'll link it in the description down below. I think a better test of what romance really looked like is what was really popular back in 2015. And of course, how are we gonna know what's popular if we don't look at the Goodreads Choice Awards? So I'm gonna compare the differences in these books, in the types of books that are popular, in the tropes, the character dynamics, and dare I say, maybe comparing the ratings that I give these books compared to maybe the ratings that I gave for the books in the 2024 Goodreads Choice Awards. And yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing here today. Taking it back to 2015, a year that was almost as good as the year 2017, which is the year that the sponsor of today's video, Cooper, was launched. Cooper is an incredible free extension designed to help us consumers save money while shopping online. And it does so much to enhance my shopping experience every time I'm online looking to spend money. It works in a few different ways, but it starts with installing the extension in my browser and creating an account. I mean, it literally takes like 5 seconds to do. And now when I shop, I have 3 incredible tools that just completely enhance my experience and make it even better with a lot less hunting around. So one of the things that Cooper can do is, while I am on a website kind of browsing around trying to decide if now is the perfect time to buy, Cooper will display price information on that item and show me if it is less expensive at a different retailer, which is so helpful. I don't want to have to go and look around if I'm looking to purchase something. I love that Cooper will do this for me. When I'm actually wanting to buy something, at checkout, Cooper will automatically test tons of different coupons and apply whatever the best available one is. Again, so I don't have to hunt around for it. I am a bit of like a coupon junkie. I will literally scour the internet for the best savings because I don't want to pay full price for anything, and I don't have to do that anymore. Cooper like pops up automatically and shows me exactly what it is, like going through like all of the different coupons, and then at the end it pops up and tells me, hey, you're gonna save like $20. That's what I like to see without me having to do, again, that extra hunting. And either on the homepage of whatever website I'm looking on or in my shopping cart when I'm going to check out, Cooper will let me know if I have any sort of cashback opportunities, which I also love. They return, again, a portion of that commission to me, to my account, and I can either withdraw it via PayPal, gift card, or bank card. I mean, hello. It's one of those things that once I learned about it, I honestly cannot live without it. I don't want to do online shopping without it. You don't have to shop without it either because it supports Chrome, Edge, Opera, Firefox, and Safari on desktop. Plus, you can get it on Safari mobile if you have the Cooper app. Cooper has 6 million weekly active users on desktop and 3 million on mobile. Plus, Cooper serves over 200,000 merchants globally. So join the 6 million savvy shoppers like me today and download Cooper to watch your savings grow. Click the link in my description to install Cooper today. Thanks again to Cooper for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now, let's go ahead and up to 2015 and read some of these romances, shall we? I think we're in for quite a ride. All right, I got Binky with me for the first one. I finished the book in its entirety. My goal for this video is to give y'all 50% updates on these books, but I finished Never Judge a Lady by Her Cover by Sarah MacLean, and I thought I would give you my thoughts and feelings. I tried to update you 50% and my brain was scrambled eggs. I can't promise it won't be now, but I'm gonna try my best to tell you about this book. It is a historical romance, which, I mean, that's just how you know that this is a 2015 Goodreads video because, unfortunately, there are just not very many historical romances on the Goodreads Choice Awards anymore. I actually don't know that I have seen one in my time doing this particular video type, which I believe I started back in like 2019. So it's been a second really since we've had historical romance as a nominee, or especially in the top 10. Like that just like doesn't happen anymore. But this book was a lot of fun. It's about our main character, Georgiana, who has kind of a double life situation going on. She is a kind of disgraced lady. She has sex with someone when she's 16, gets pregnant out of wedlock, and this person basically leaves her, and she is, I believe, the daughter of a duke. So she has a little bit of social standing left and she is trying to come back, I think like 9 years after the birth of her daughter, and re-enter society, marry someone who has a title, and perhaps, I guess, secure a better future for her daughter. In the 9 years that she hasn't really been in society, she has been building up her double life and her other identities. So she works at a gaming hell, and her secret identity, I think, is called like Anna. Anna is the right-hand lady to someone named Chase, and Chase has an inordinate amount of knowledge about the Ton and about the goings-on because he basically, you know, runs the gaming hell. As the book carries on, we figure out that Chase and Anna are the same person. Chase and Anna and Georgiana are all kind of the same person, and the hero of the story is someone who meets Georgiana for the first time when she is in society, but has been kind of in leagues with Chase, or has been kind of working with Chase, because he, the hero of the book, is an owner of a newspaper, and so he kind of works in collaboration with Chase to get, I guess, privileged information and or past privileged information back and forth. But the real, I guess, plot of the story and kind of what happens is that Georgiana doesn't want her identity as Chase or Anna really to like get out, and Duncan, the hero, the guy who owns the newspaper, is trying to, I don't want to say become legit, but he has someone who's been blackmailing him and holding things over his head for quite a while. He wants to kind of like work with Chase to potentially like put this guy, the blackmailer, away for good. And so Georgiana is like in this weird situation because she is fucking this guy. Like they have this sort of like hookup situation that starts happening in the beginning of the book, but also she's trying to like keep her identities apart from him. And I don't know, it's just really juicy and fun and sexy, and I just love seeing a woman in a position of power. I think it's Victorian England, maybe Regency England. It's just a lot of fun. I really like the way that this one was written. I don't always love Sarah MacLean's books. Some of her historicals I really enjoy. Most of them I've kind of had like middle of the road success with, but this one I'd probably give 4 stars. Like I genuinely enjoyed it. I mean, I haven't read a ton of historical romances that were published in 2015 to like really compare this one to, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the better ones published in 2015. Like it was a very solid romance. I really enjoyed it, and I'll be interested to see what books end up topping this one, but we are off to a very, very good start. I love, again, seeing a historical romance on this list, and it does just have me reflecting on, I guess, how different the landscape of romance looks right now. We don't have a lot of the same genres being popular, which I think is kind of sad, and I was reflecting on it even more when I was listening to the audiobook for this book and listening to Justine Eyre, who's such a phenomenal historical romance audiobook narrator. Like, am I not going to hear her voice anymore if we're like not getting the same amount of historicals published? That'd be quite tragic. So I don't know, I think like maybe go pick up a historical romance. I'm not really like doing this video with the purpose of like telling you need to go read these books, but also like, are these books better than the ones that are being published right now? I think it's all relative, and I think there were good books being published then and now, but yeah, I'll be curious to see. But next I am going to pick up The Secret of Pembroke Park or something, and I'll get back to you with my thoughts and feelings on that. I'm here to do my hair, and I'm here to talk to you about 2 books that I will not be reading. Now, I did not intend when going into this video to essentially DNF or not read 2 books, because I don't know, 2 out of 10, like that just kind of reduces the overall number of books I'm talking about, and I don't know, I'm a completionist, what can I say? Try not to DNF if I can avoid it. However, I knew going in that I was going to not read Beautiful Redemption by Jamie McGuire. Is it Jamie McGuire? Whatever the author's name is of this book. I think that as readers, we get to decide what sorts of authors we want to support, what sorts of messages we want to consume, and I think we're all going to have very personal opinions on that. For me, my personal opinion is that I do not agree with this author on a lot of things. And so I just didn't really want to read anything by this author or support them. So that is my own personal choice. You get to make that, again, personal choice for yourself. I think it's pretty safe to say that this author is conservative amongst other things. So I'll leave it there. It was not going to happen. That was not going to happen. I didn't, however, expect to not read Is It the Secret of Pembroke Park? And the reason for that is I didn't really know anything going into this book. I'd never heard of this book before. And when I initially looked on Goodreads, a lot of my friends had given this book really good ratings. Now, a lot of my friends read this book right when it came out, so maybe their opinions would be different now. Maybe they wouldn't. I'm not quite sure. But this is a religious book, and I didn't know that. I picked up the audiobook from my library, and the like opening quote was from the Bible, and I was like, okay, willing to hear you out. Let's see where this goes. But then I did double check on Goodreads, and it did say that this is a Christian Regency mystery. And here's the thing, I don't really like when Regency is mixed with other things. Like, I just want to read a historical romance. I don't feel like I need the mystery component. It's not really super my thing. And then the Christian thing, it's just not for me. I'm not super in the market for Christian literature. Respect. I'm not super into it. And that's, you know, my own, again, personal thing, I'll not be reading this book. I'm sure many of you understand. I'm sure many of you were like, oh, you should have read it anyway. Well, I didn't want to. And I'm sorry, I guess, kind of, not really. Just, I'm not reading these two books, so I'm just gonna have two big fat DNFs. But you know what? I think I'm okay with that, and I think we're going to not DNF, hopefully not DNF anything else. No promises though. Y'all ready to chat about Ride Steady by Kristen Ashley? We have a motorcycle club romance. Just feel like, again, the vibes of 2015 were different, and we knew this, right? Different than 2025, but I just am kind of digging the variety. I think that's what I'd like to see a return to. Honestly, if I had to pick, I wish we had a little more variety in the Goodreads Choice Awards and/or just more variety in romance in general. I feel like the really hot things right now are just your typical like rom-com, you know, just a contemporary setting, people with normal jobs, and I get it, I get the appeal. We've also got sports romances are really big, dark romances are a thing right now, some cozy romances as well, cozy romantasy, but I just don't feel like, you know, you don't get motorcycle club romances anymore. I mean, people write them, I'm sure, but like, I don't see them being popular. I don't see them on Kindle Unlimited very often. I definitely don't see them in the Goodreads Choice Awards. Let's talk about Ride Steady by Kristen Ashley. For context, Kristen Ashley is a very popular author, or she was a very popular author. I think she has like a very loyal readership. And I tried to read one of her books back in the day for another video, and I just like really did not like her writing style. Pushing through with this book, I am appreciating it a little bit. She definitely has like a humorous way of writing. It's not like over the top haha laughs, but her heroines tend to be either kind of plucky or a little awkward and funny. And okay, so let me try to bring it down. What this book's about. We've got Cameron, who's our hero, and we've got Carissa, who is our heroine, and these two used to attend the same high school. Now, Cameron, our hero, had a really shitty upbringing. His mom was never around, and his dad was very abusive to him, physically, verbally, all of the things, and he needed to do what he had to do to escape that situation, but it didn't leave him a hard, calloused individual. He isn't very emotionally vulnerable at the start of the story, but even in the beginning of the story when he is undergoing this abuse, he really doesn't lash out at people because of this. He tries to help people. So if you see someone getting bullied at school, he speaks up. That is something that Carissa is really attracted to. She was part of like the mean girl group. I think she might have been a cheerleader, but she wasn't mean herself. She's always very, very sweet. And Cameron saw this in her, and she also saw him, and they weren't necessarily friends, but she really wanted to go out with him, and he really wanted to go out with her, and it just never ended up happening. It was kind of a missed encounter, or what is it? Missed connection. They are both out of high school. Now Carissa is in sort of a shitty situation because husband has recently divorced her, left her for a younger woman. She's still like in her, I think like early 20s, like she's still pretty young. She's an infant. He has like basically fucked her out of any sort of like spousal support or any good child support. She is working at a grocery store as a grocery store clerk, trying to kind of make ends meet. And the story kind of starts when she is on the side of the road with I think like a flat tire, or her car is just fucked. Cameron, who looks completely different now, pulls up next to her and ends up kind of taking her into the fold. Not like having her become a part of a motorcycle club, but he is a part of a motorcycle club. He kind of takes her in, gets her car fixed up for her, and she like has a found family in them, and they try to do a lot of nice things for her, getting her a better attorney to fight her shitty ex, getting her a better place to live, like just doing all of these really nice things for her. So it's a surprisingly heartwarming story for a motorcycle club romance. The only thing that I'm not really sold on at the moment is the fact that Carissa is very into Cameron, and he is very into her as well. However, she feels like she's really chasing him because he is not willing to be emotionally vulnerable. And a big part of that is that he has kept his identity to himself. She doesn't know that it's Cameron. She just thinks that this biker guy is like helping her and she likes him and is attracted to him. Obviously there's a reveal there, and it's not like really that big of a deal. I mean, she's upset about it, but I don't know that I love that our heroine, who has been in a shitty situation with guys before, is having to sort of like chase after a man. Granted, he does have, you know, emotional intimacy issues because of his abuse and his trauma. So like, I get it. No, I don't like love their relationship dynamic. I don't hate it, but I'm not like obsessed with it yet. That being said, I was not looking forward to this one because it's a Kristen Ashley book and I haven't had luck with her stuff in the past. I wasn't really looking forward to this because it was a really long biker romance, but it's actually a pretty pleasant read, and I actually think this is going to turn out to be a pretty solid book. It's interesting reading this, comparing it to some of the things that I read now. Can see the care that's been taken in to really develop and plot a romance. Here's my problem, I'm gonna be honest with you, with a lot of books that I read right now. A lot of books are just not very well plotted and planned. And I don't think that romance is rocket science. I do think it's hard to write a romance that can get people to care about, but I don't think it's impossible to like plot a good romance, to give it a good, you know, pace. You'd be surprised at how often that is the case when I pick up books. And this book, I feel like the books that I have picked up for this video so far had a decent pace. They have felt well planned out, and I really appreciate it. It feels like I'm reading romance and not just scenes cobbled together with sex in between. So I can appreciate that. Will that theme continue? I doubt it, considering we've got to read some like 50 Shades of Grey and some Crossfire series books for this. So I'm sure, I'm not saying that like romance is in shambles and like everything was better back in the olden days. Definitely not the fucking case. Yeah, it's interesting to compare. It's definitely interesting to compare. So I'm gonna finish this tonight. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna finish this tomorrow morning because this book's fucking long, but I will report back. Then we can move on to the next book, which I think is Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And I can't remember if I've read this one before. I've actually read a decent amount of her books, which is interesting because I don't usually love them. I do think her earlier stuff was better. Anyway, I'll be back. Rad Steady by Kristen Ashley. I finished it, and I think I'm gonna give it like 3 stars. This was a perfectly satisfactory motorcycle club romance. My main beef with this book, my main bitch, if I have to have one, is that not much happened. Like, it was kind of unexciting and uninteresting. Everything kind of worked out the way that I thought that it would, and the drama was surprisingly not there, which I feel like is normally what I've come to expect with motorcycle club romances. I was actually looking at my Goodreads shelf, and it seems like I've only read like 13 books in the subgenre, which surprises me because I feel like I know the genre at this point, I know like the culture, shall we say. Yeah, there really was not a whole lot of drama. I mean, I appreciated that there wasn't any like other woman drama, which is particularly rampant in the motorcycle club romance sort of scene. But that being said, I think that the lack of drama, the lack of angst and intrigue made the story a little bit unexciting. Like, these two kind of figure out they have feelings for each other early on, and our hero takes maybe a little bit longer to kind of get there, again, because of his trauma, but I don't think it justified the page length of this book and it being a story? Question mark. Like, it was inevitable these two were going to be together. I didn't see any barriers, that were really, I don't know how these two are going to end up together. I appreciated the sweetness of the hero. I appreciated that our heroine did kind of grow a backbone as the story went on. I guess stand firm in her convictions, especially with her, baby daddy, who was kind of a piece of shit, but also was trying to win her back. I like that, she didn't take him back. That was stuff. Definitely what we need in this kind of story. So it was fine. I'd give it 3 stars. I think this is far from the worst thing that we're going to read, but definitely wasn't something that I'm going to think about a lot after having finished it. Let's move on, shall we? Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a book that I actually haven't read by this author. For some reason, I thought this was in her like Half-Blood series. It's not. This is a different series, and in this society, there are fae. And the fae, to stay alive and stay immortal, essentially, to kill humans. And they have found a way into the human realm to, again, like, come and kill humans. And our heroine, a part of this society that tries to kill fae, try to keep, I think, humans unaware that these fae exist. And so it's kind of giving like shadow hunters in a sense, kind of reminding me of, is it the Cressley Cole series? There's a paranormal romance series that has kind of a similar idea. In that series, I'm thinking of, it's vampires who come into maturity at 21, but they have to start killing people at 21. This is, I guess, kind of similar. I don't think the fae are quite as developed, and we don't really know that much about them. But at the start of the story, our heroine comes across a fae who is unlike any of the other fae that we have seen before. It doesn't have the silvery skin and the pale blue eyes, isn't easily identifiable. This creature looks human, but it can't be killed. And so she has an encounter with them, and she's like, oh fuck, this is so scary. She tells her society, and they're like kind of not believing her. She also ends up teaming up with a guy who is like really high up in the secret society, so high up, and in kind of this like random, I guess, offshoot of it, she's like not even aware that this like little society exists, or this like band of people exists. He's into her, she's into him, they're horny for each other, they're trying to like kind of figure out who this like old fae is, because they're assuming this guy is like, an old person in the fae, one of the elder fae. Not much is fucking happening, if I'm being like 100% real. I am kind of bored, which is surprising me because normally JLA books bring like the drama and the fun and the action, and there's action, I guess, but I'm not intrigued. Like, not even Brownie, which is like a small fae, I think, that lives with our heroine, not even that character and their quirks and like banter is really making this exciting. Like, there's just nothing that I'm like, oh my god, yeah, this is good stuff, which is disappointing because I really assumed this was going to be one of the better books, and it's certainly not bad. Surprised to say that I think Ride Steady, I enjoyed more than this one. I don't know. Only 50% in. Maybe the fucking will really make up for it, but I am so torn on this book because on the one hand, I was relatively bored throughout the majority of the story, but the ending of this book was such a fucking cliffhanger. It was so, I don't want to say juicy. I'm very intrigued now. I have to say, I really think that's where JLA succeeds. Shades. As I was saying at the beginning of like this clip, I think that she tends to write things that are juicy and fun, even if they're not like most original ideas. I think that she has a way of writing that really draws me in. And while the majority of this book, again, wasn't like, oh my god, this is amazing, the ending of this book, I'm just like, fuck, okay, that's a good twist. That's a good twist. And maybe I should have seen it coming, but like, I kind of want to know what's next. So I think this is probably a 3-star read for me. It was not incredible, but also definitely not bad at all. And I think that, especially like considering what was popular back in the day, like when this came out, City of Bones was sort of a thing. I mean, City of Bones came quite a few years before this, but you know, that sort of like new adult fantasy, I think just like wasn't as big as it is now. Like now romantasy is such a huge thing, and I wouldn't say this is like an immediate precursor or like the inspiration for romantasy. Obviously that's Sarah J Maas, okay? Say what you fucking will, but Sarah really paved the way for a lot of people. I think that this is a fun one. I do have to respect JLA and her hustle because she has been writing shit like this for years. Obviously she kind of struck gold with From Blood and Ash, but I think that she really followed publishing trends and makes it her own, so good for her. 3 stars. Let's talk about a book that I had to DNF. I really thought I wasn't going to DNF another book, but Captivated by You, I think is the name of this one. I couldn't fucking do it, okay? I actually picked this one up. Like, the Pembroke Park one, I got like maybe a couple of seconds into the audiobook and just couldn't do it, personally. This, I actually got from my library. I went so far as to download it to my Kindle, to get about a chapter in before I just had to nope out. I couldn't do it. So I read the Crossfire series back pretty quickly after reading 50 Shades, around this time period, I'm sure. I got through the first 2 books, I think. I don't think I really carried on past that, but much like 50 Shades, I just don't know that a BDSM semi-toxic relationships book needs to be a series. I don't think every book like this needs to be a series. I think arguably, unless you're writing a romantasy or a fantasy book, I don't really know that I think any romance needs like a sequel. And I could be wrong here. That's like a personal opinion held. The relationship in this series is not great. I think both hero and heroine have histories of abuse in their past. I think our heroine was assaulted by like a stepbrother or something like that. I can't really remember the hero's history, but they both are handling these things in different ways. Our heroine actively seeks therapy and actively is seeking ways to make herself feel better, which good. That's what you should be doing. Our hero, on the other hand, thinks that like therapy is kind of stupid and is unwilling to get help for his issues. And at the beginning of this book, we really see those 2 differing points of view on therapy sort of like rear their ugly head, because our hero is upset because the heroine is like traveling. I want to say she's going to travel. An ex of hers or someone who is interested in her is going to potentially be around. I think he's like in a band and she's going to be around this band. And he's like, I don't want you around him. He doesn't know that you're mine and we're married now. And it's like insecurity is like really just unbecoming. It's not very cute. I don't really like the possessive, jealous thing. It's kind of gross. I don't know. Just the way that the hero was talking to the heroine. Creepy in a way that I think 50 Shades isn't. And I'm not saying 50 Shades is good, but I think that it's more overt, I think, because you've got this focus on therapy for the heroine. You've got that possibility there, like that this is a thing that we do, you know, in this world that our author's building. And then you have a hero who's just so toxic and no. And also I feel as though, again, why do we have like a 4th book in a series on this list? Why do we need that? Finally, some good fucking food. The Deal by Elle Kennedy. It is crazy to me that this book was published back in 2015 and that we have been loving and recommending and reading this book for over a decade at this point. Maybe not over a decade. I don't know the exact publishing month of this book, but yeah, it's been 10 years of The Deal. It's crazy to me how much this book holds up, not only in its content, but also in its recommendability. Like everybody still recommends this book. Everybody loves the series. I won't say everybody. I can't speak for everybody, but I often see this being recommended and solid for good reason, you know? I'm having such a good time with it at 30. I read this for the first time back in college, my senior year of college, and to get to pick it up now and still just have the same fond memories, and not just from a nostalgia perspective, but from a this is really well written perspective, it feels good, especially considering the shit that I've been reading for this video. Some of it has been fun. Some of it has been absolutely terrible. This just being solid and holding up just makes me feel so good, so satisfying. So this book is about a college hockey player named Garrett Graham and our heroine Hannah. She is a arts major. I think she is specifically a singer and is like going to college for that. At the moment, she is just trying to kind of, you know, do well in school, and she's working on a piece with a partner, like a duet kind of piece for the winter showcase. Garrett comes into her life because they're in the same, I think, philosophy course. He is not doing super well, but he obviously needs to pass his class. I want to say this is like the origins of the tutoring the hockey player trope. Definitely is the first that I've ever read like this, and I think was the inspiration for a lot of romances that are pretty similar. What I like so much about this book is the way that Garrett and Hannah interact at the beginning of the book just feels so organic and so natural. It's not an enemies to lovers situation, but Hannah definitely doesn't want to help Garrett at the beginning there. She is like, Jock wants my help. Why the fuck would I help you? The way that they interact and text, it just still feels like interactions would be had today. It's not like life has changed. I mean, life has changed a lot in the past decade, but it's not like communication has completely changed. But it is nice to see that this book, it doesn't feel like it was written a decade ago. It doesn't dated in any way, at least not that I can really tell. It's just a testament to the way that Elle Kennedy writes and the care that she takes with her characters. So another point of this book that I honestly forgot is that Hannah was sexually assaulted back in high school. This has repercussions not only for her mental well-being and her ability to be intimate with others, but also on like her family. And yeah, it's something that I, again, did not remember being a part of this book, but I think that the topic itself is handled with such care. And I like that for a book written a decade ago, this book handles a topic that is very delicate in a way that I think is empowering. And our heroine is working hard to kind of recover from the things she's been through. And the hero of this book is very supportive, wants to be there for her, and doesn't want to push her to do things she's not comfortable with. And I think that this is the kind of book that is important for younger people who are maybe like getting into romance to read. You know, there are some books that don't handle topics like this very well, or there's some books that could maybe give you an unrealistic idea of what relationships should be. And I'm not saying that you're gonna like fall for your college hockey star, but there's just so much about this book that I think is like really well done. I just love it. I think it's a great book. I remember liking the second and third book in the series, I think more than this first one. So it's interesting that I'm picking this up and having such a great time with it. It makes me want to go back and reread the entire series. These are just awesome and I feel so effortless, man. I wish that more books that I picked up had this sort of like effortless, fun vibe. I love the side characters too. When you get me to care about side characters, that's how I know it's real, because side characters, I don't want to say make or break a book, but they do really lend a sense of realism to a story. You know, when you're in college, you've got friends and you've got people around you who influence you. To see Hannah have some like cool friends and Garrett have friends too, I just remember being like, I can't wait to read those guys' romance. And yeah, God, this is just so fun and it's bringing me back. So I'm gonna get cozy in bed and finish this one. I am so looking forward to it. Okay, my friends, hello, happy Saturday. I am gonna be doing a lot of filming today and a lot of talking to you about books. Let's finish off the deal, shall we? I think this is easily the best book we're gonna be reading for this video. It was just so much fun, and I feel like I yapped so much about this book, so I don't want to go into too much more yapping detail, but I just really think that this is such a solid new adult romance, and I don't want to say like paved the way for sports romances, because there were definitely authors doing sports romance before this. In fact, I think I've done a Goodreads choice word video where I read from an author who, like, I guess invented the genre, which is kind of cool. I do think that this book sort of popularized new adult even more and kind of popularized sports romance in colleges, or like having a new adult sports romance. Like that wasn't, I feel like, really a thing until this book. I'm sure you're gonna point, you know, out another book where that's a thing, but I think for a lot of us, this is like the first that we read and it still holds up. I think it's still a lot of fun. That's not to say that there aren't some jokes that are going to rub people the wrong way. That is something I want to point out, because I did notice in some Goodreads reviews, some people were saying that they didn't appreciate a joke that Garrett makes, something about like women aren't as smart, and like he is joking, he doesn't actually believe that, but that isn't funny to some people. And so, you know, everybody's going to have a different sense of humor and or be offended or not offended by different things. So I do want to point that out. Like, this was written a decade ago, but I think the overall themes and the overall message of the book is a good one. So obviously going to be up to your own interpretation whether or not that sort of thing bothers you, but overall I really enjoyed this book. It's funny, I went back and looked at my initial rating for this book and my second rating of this book. Second time I rated this book 4 stars and I was like, yeah, it's good, it's just kind of predictable. And I'm not saying that like that was the wrong thing to say about this book. Having read even more romance since finishing my reread of this book, which I think was back in like 2017 or 2018, I'd say with some degree of certainty that this really is one of the better books out there, and I really fucking enjoyed it. So I'm going to take back my 4-star rating that I gave this book the second time I read it, and I'm gonna give it 5 stars this time around, okay? So that officially makes this book the best book that I've read so far, and probably will be, I would say, the best book that I read so far, because I've got 3 more to go, and like I really don't have high hopes for the rest of them. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I also noticed that I hadn't really been doing the graphic thing that I have done in other Goodreads choice word videos, so I'm gonna go ahead and flash up that little graphic for you so you can see kind of what the ratings are looking like. And I, you know, took the liberty of adding the actual star ratings on the graphic, so you can actually see what we're comparing to as I, rate and rank these books. But this is a 5-star read. Really enjoyed it. I'm not holding out hope for the other 3, but fingers crossed we also have some good books to join this one, at the top. So let's move on, shall we? Because I feel like I've yapped too much about this book. Let's talk about The Shadows by J.R. Ward. Now, I believe is like the 13th book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. And if you know anything about me, you know that I love the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I really owe this series, I don't want to say my life, that's a bit dramatic, but I really got into adult romance through this series. I had finished Twilight and I was looking for something sexier. As a little freshman in high school, I just wanted something sexier. I found this series recommended. I don't even know where the fuck I would have found this, like on some forum maybe, but we're recommending the series as like sexy vampire series. And it is in no way similar to Twilight. However, it's sexy vampires. So in this series, we've got a band of warrior vampires who protect non-warrior vampires of their same species from a human-born, like, demon class of people. Basically, humans get recruited to become lessers. They basically give up their soul and then they fight vampires. Like, that is kind of what happens there. And they're like the natural born enemy, I guess, or naturally created enemy of the vampires. And the vampire like lore here is that at 18 you reach like sexual maturity. Your body like completely transforms. You have to basically sustain your own life on the blood of someone else of the opposite sex from your same species. Like, vampires just feed on each other and it's a cyclical thing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, these books follow the vampires that are protecting the race. But this book is not about one of the vampires that protects the race. It's about, I don't know if they are like a vampire subspecies or what, but the Shadows. They are I guess, like different race of people in this vampire world. They've got like their own hierarchy and their own kind of societal rules. This book follows 2 shadows we meet kind of early on in the series named Trez and I Am. Now, this book in particular mostly follows Trez's story as he falls in love with one of the sort of like I was gonna say nuns of the species, but the god of the vampires is actually a woman. She's called the Scribe Virgin, and she has people working for her up in vampire heaven called the Chosen. Okay, and Selena is one of these chosen. Here's the thing. I don't want to go into too much detail because it like ultimately doesn't really matter for the purpose of this video, but I'm a little bit like not into this book because, well, I think if you pick this book up to do a video like I am and you haven't read this series at all, you have no context, it'd be confusing as fuck. I think I take personal beef when non-standalones get put in these Choice Awards, right? I think that if you're going to put a book that's in a series on the Choice Awards, it needs to be a standalone. Like a part of a series, but a standalone, like you could read it on its own and totally be fine. I think if you picked this book up, you'd be really fucking confused at what is happening. Not only that, I just am not super into the plot of this book. It has been a hot second since I have the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I don't want to say I've forgotten the plot points that happen, but there is an overarching plot line for this entire series. So if you are reading the books out of order, you're going to be confused as fuck as to what's actually happening. I think another thing that I am taking issue with here is that the romance is just completely lacking. I am not feeling any chemistry between Trez and Selena, who is again the Chosen. I'm wondering if I Am is going to have his own romance. He is like barely present, it feels like, in this book, except for to tell his brother like, calm down, like I know that you're bonded with this female, but like you can't just like rip everybody's heads off. That's the thing about the series. It's very like alpha male, very like you're my mate and I'm gonna protect you from everyone. I loved that shit when I was younger. It's so interesting to see, I guess, how our tastes change as we age, and I guess what is normal in books changes. It's like part of me is like, did I actually like possessiveness when I was younger? Was that like goals for me when I was younger, or was I just reading those kinds of books? I assumed that was natural, normal, and something that I really wanted. I usually push back against the idea that like, romance books are prescriptive, or that if you read a romance book that has some unhealthy relationship dynamics, that means you're gonna want those for yourself. But I feel like I used to really enjoy, the whole like alpha male, like, oh my god, he loves me and like I'm his woman sort of thing, because I don't really like that shit now. So it's interesting, like, not rereading the series because I haven't read this particular book before. I haven't read the entire Black Dagger Brotherhood series, admittedly, because I'm not really into the dynamic that's on display here. He's very, very protective and possessive over Selena, and I think maybe because I didn't read, the 12th book right before this one, I don't really have a ton of context for this romantic relationship, so I'm kind of just like, it's not sexy to me. It's just not sexy to me anymore. Anyway, I feel like I've been ranting a lot about this book. It's not bad. It definitely has a plot line, so I do think that if you're someone who hasn't really loved romance in the past because you just don't feel like the plots are always there for you, like you feel like there's something missing, maybe this series will do it for you. I don't know that starting at the 13th book is really going to be the way. I'm really nervous for the end of this book because one of the reasons I didn't read this book, and I have read other books in the series past book 13, because I know the ending of this book, and I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. And I think I'm probably going to rate this book shitty because of it. I might even take issue with it being nominated beyond just the fact that it's the 13th book in a series that you really have to read, you know, the prior books to understand. But I'll save that for when I actually finish the book. I lost my ranting clip for The Shadows, and I think honestly that's probably for the best, but I will try to keep it concise and also communicate what I did in that clip that I unfortunately lost. This book's not a fucking romance, and I'm honestly kind of incensed. I knew, here's the thing, I knew what this book was. There was a reason I didn't pick it up, yet I'm still pissed off. I don't care if I spoil this book. I know most of you won't care. The heroine in this book dies and does not come back to life. She does not get incarnated. She does not come back as a ghost. She does not stay in his dreams. Heroine fucking dies. You can't have a happily ever after where heroine dies. Now, some people will argue that is realistic to real life, that is something that happens, and that doesn't mean that it's not a love story. And that, to an extent, is true. There are love stories out there, and a love story and a romance are not the same thing. And you might be like, what the fuck are you talking? You have to have a happily ever after, an HEA, to be a romance. It is a convention of the genre, and conventions are not meant to be broken. They're not meant to be fucked with. I don't like this. I don't like this. And it was not a bad book. It actually was not a bad book. I feel like the plot line got interesting. I liked the direction that certain things were heading in, but I didn't feel the chemistry really between hero and heroine. And she also fucking dies, so like doesn't even matter. Why was this book nominated? I feel like this should have immediately been disqualified because the heroine dies. And, you know, obviously it's a spoiler, whatever. Just, no. Enjoy J.R. Ward's writing. I did read her blog post talking about this book and the way that she writes, and no, she can't go against what her characters feel on the inside, and like, it's all fine and good, but like, if you were going to write a romance series, it needed to have a romance ending. That's all I'm gonna fucking say, okay? I'm giving this book 2 stars. That's it. I mean, I'm just giving it 2 stars. I think the book itself deserves more than that, but I cannot in good conscience give it more than that because it's not a fucking romance. Listen, I thought 50 Shades couldn't get any more unfucking hinged, and yet here I am reading 50 Shades of Grey from Christian's point of view. I just have to ask, who asked for this? And I know that it is horny women, horny individuals, you know, I don't want to just put this all on women. No, I used to look back and think maybe like that 50 Shades awakened, you know, a generation of readers, sort of like Twilight did, and, you know, maybe there just wasn't that level of like smutty romance available at the time, but I think that this video thus far has shown it's just simply not the case. There were some incredibly smutty and incredibly fun romances published in 2015 and before, of course. I just don't understand why. I don't understand why we needed this. I try to set the scene as to why this is so bad. Here's the thing too. I actually don't hate 50 Shades of Grey. I'm gonna be honest with you. Is it a good representation of BDSM? Absolutely not. Is it so corny and funny and like just kind of fun to read? Yes, absolutely. This one is not though. Okay, this one's not. And the reason for that is that Christian Grey as a character is someone whose head we should just absolutely never ban. If you've seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, is very much Dennis, very much has the killing tools, very much psychotic. The way that this man at the 25% mark of the book details how he's never seen pubic hair on a woman before, or it's been a while since he has, and it's so novel. He wants to blow on it. So bizarre. Also, he starts like licking her toes. And I'm not saying that either of these things in and of themselves are bad, wrong, creepy. The way that it's detailed is creepy. The way that he doesn't think like a human being would think is creepy. I'm unsettled. I'm disturbed. I want Anastasia to get the fuck out of there. Just, ugh. That is it. I mean, really, honestly, what the fuck? I am curious, I will say, as we carry on and read more of this book, how much of it I'm going to be grossed out by and surprised by. And also when the conflict of the book comes in, I would be curious, I guess, to get the conflict of the book from his point of view, because we know what Anastasia was thinking. We know exactly what was going on in her mind as to why she wanted to leave him. But is he going to experience remorse for his actions? Methinks not, but I do want to know. So I will continue to listen to this while I browse Pinterest. To say that Grey was disappointing, I think implies that I was expecting it to be good. It was still disappointing. Like, it disappointed me even though I didn't expect it to be good. I actually wanted a little bit more crazy. Is that weird to say? I did want a little bit more crazy because, you know, as the book carried on, I was fucking bored for most of it. After a while, you just get used to how bizarre this man's train of thought is and how not romantic this story is. But even the conflict of the book and him like inflicting this pain on her and her basically running away from him, like, you know, that happens in Shades and we get to see it from his point of view. That didn't even shock, surprise anything me. Like, it was not, oh my god, this man's like fucking crazy. I mean, he is, but I don't know. I was expecting more. shall we say. So this is gonna get 1 star for me. There was nothing here that was entertaining, and I think 50 Shades I've given 2 or 3 stars before because I do find there to be an entertainment value there. The inner goddess that Anastasia has, I think, is funny. Rather read the Beyblade tampon moment from her perspective than his. That one was entertaining. This one was unnecessary. 1 star. Okay, moving on. For our last book, Confess by Colleen Hoover. I think that this Goodreads Choice Award is getting me to reflect on who has won the Goodreads Choice Awards before. I know Colleen is a multiple year in a row winner, sort of like Emily Henry. While I'm not a huge fan of Emily Henry's works, it is, I guess, nice to see like a true romance, I guess, sort of be at the forefront. And it's not even that I would say that Colleen doesn't write romance, but I wouldn't say that all of her stories truly end with a happily ever after. I'm not Colleen's biggest fan, okay? I don't hate her stuff. I don't hate her. I just don't really love her books. They're not really my cup of tea. I think that they sit at the intersection of women's fiction and romance in much the same way that Emily Henry's do. It's sort of for people who think that they're too good for romance. And that has been a discussion I think that we've been seeing more online recently, which I do like and is something that I have a hard time necessarily articulating or 100% knowing where I stand. But I do think that it's interesting that oftentimes the winner of the Goodreads Choice Award is not the most romance-centric book. It tends to be books that have romance in them, but they wouldn't really be what I consider to be like 100% romance. And obviously that's a very personal thing, what you consider to be romance versus not, like how much romance needs to be present in a book for it to be considered romance versus women's fiction or just general fiction, whatever you'd like to call it. Confess, I'm really rambling at this point. I am not the biggest fan of this book. Let's just call it what it is. Of the Colleen Hoover books I've read, this is maybe the most unexciting. It's reminding me in some ways of one that was nominated for a Choice Award and that I had to talk about like multiple times that year. It's the blue one. Remembering You or some shit like that. I don't remember the name of it. Okay, Confess though. It's about our main character Auburn, who used to live in a different state and is now living in Dallas, Texas. She is working at a salon doing hair, I believe, and she is looking for part-time work and happens to see a sign in the window of this art gallery that is, you know, looking for work or looking for, I guess, someone to come work at the art gallery. This art gallery is called Confess, and it has this idea or the theme behind it, the owner behind it, basically creates art based off of people's confessions. You can submit a confession anonymously, and he bases his work off of that. She gets to know this man, Owen, who again owns the place, and they kind of fall in love. They both have secrets that they are kind of keeping to themselves that are keeping them apart and or making life more complicated, much like many of Colleen Hoover's books. It doesn't feel super unique or original, and I think my problem with this book is that not much is happening. I can appreciate Colleen Hoover's writing style. It is very accessible. It is very easy to get into. Sometimes I do actually care about the romances or I'm intrigued by the chemistry between characters. I have to say in this one, I don't really feel the chemistry between hero and heroine. I also just don't really see people talking about this book. So I think that it's not one of her most popular, you know, most talked about, most buzzworthy books. This one just has, just a simplicity to it that I really was not expecting from this author. And I think that she likes to play with, you know, moral questions. She likes to play with plot twists that are not like mystery thriller plot twists, but that do really change your perception of a character or a situation. It does happen in this book, but it's not really momentous. It's like, that's not a big deal. Okay, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information, but it doesn't feel like a big deal. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, this is the winner of the Goodreads Choice Award. This is the final book that we're reading, and it just surprises me that something that is this meh would win when things like Sarah MacLean's book or The Deal were nominees. I think it just goes to show the appeal of Colleen Hoover's books. Again, that sort of accessibility and the intrigue that tend to be in her books and make people pick up her books. It's romance, but it's not really romance sort of vibe that, again, I think tends to appeal to non-romance readers and some romance readers alike. It's certainly not my cup of tea as I don't want to say a true romance reader. I think we can all enjoy different things for sure. I think that if the only romance that you like is like Colleen Hoover or is Emily Henry, I question a little bit your true love of the genre. Hello, my friends. Hopefully the lighting participates. The sun is setting. Pepper is running around looking for pets and he might scream a little bit. So my apologies, but I did finish Confess, and I confess that I'm going to give this book 2 stars. It was fine. Fine in the sense that it was just incredibly boring and lacking any of the flavor I've come to expect from Colleen. Whether you love her or hater, her books tend to evoke emotion, and this one didn't really, to be honest. There was a ne'er-do-well who brought some of the drama, some of the intrigue, if you will, but not enough to save this book from the drudgery, to be honest. This was just not exciting. Didn't feel the chemistry between hero and heroine, and it honestly read like a straight-up romance, which, again, is not really what I've come to expect from Colleen Hoover, though many of her books are, categorized and classified as romance. So it feels weird to criticize this book for not having more to it when I just bitched about a book not having a happily ever after. And, this one did technically have a happily ever after, but again, it's just like, I need a little bit more. I'm gonna need a little bit more from Colleen, just, from what I've come to expect from her. So 2 stars there, which, puts us in an interesting place, which is the end of the video, and discussing my final thoughts and comparing these books to the 2024 Goodreads Choice Awards. Now, I will admit, I have done this video type multiple different times, right? I think I started in 2019. It's 2025 now. I'm gonna do it again, this year, do the 2025 Goodreads Choice Awards. I've done the 2011 Goodreads Choice Awards. So anyway, I know the Goodreads Choice Awards at this point, and I know how I tend to rate these books, and last year was a particularly good year for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I rated many of the books highly, so I think that my average rating for the top 10 for 2024 is skewing a little higher than normal. The average rating that I gave to the top 10, just that overall average, 3.5. That's like pretty fucking high. My overall rating on Goodreads, like my overall average rating, I want to say is like 3, just like 3 stars. So 3.5, pretty high. And 3 to me is like a good rating to give a book. It's like, I liked this, it wasn't perfect, but it was great. Now, my overall rating, my average rating for 2015 books was 2.8. So not great. And I chose to exclude the DNFs from my ratings because I don't rate DNFs, and it just, it felt like it was going to skew the data a little bit too much in the negative direction. So I excluded those ones from the 2015 top 10, average. There was some force behind that headbutt, and then he decided to eat my hair. So I guess we're all witnessing this together. I was gonna try to give you some sage wisdom, or my thoughts and feelings. And you know what? I'm gonna try to do that right here. How do I feel about the Goodreads Choice Awards in 2015? Do I feel like the books were better? Clearly not. I don't think that is the case. But it's always fun for me to go back and explore. Now, I don't consider myself a romance historian by any means, but I was a history major in college and do appreciate seeing where the genre has been and seeing where the genre is going. What I find most fascinating when I look at not only the covers of the books, but just like the content of the books, is how much what people are looking for is changing and has changed over the past decade. I find it really interesting too, not only like the genre changes, but the kinds of characters that people are looking for. Many of the books that I read had the sort of like strong alpha type hero, the guy who's a little bit commandeering, who's gonna put you in your place and or protect you and like be that white knight. I think that now that's not what we're really looking for. It's not what readers are searching for when they're picking up romance. I'm sorry, he is never like this. He's such a clown. I love you, buddy. You're so... Oh. He's making air biscuits. I want to cry. Okay, I'm not going to. 2015 Goodreads Choice Awards. I think the biggest difference, I'm just going to state it, plainly, is that there's just really no rom-coms. There's no rom-coms nominated. I looked throughout the Goodreads Choice Awards, not just the top 10 for 2015, and I noticed just a complete lack of rom-coms or, I don't want to say your bog standard contemporary romance, but contemporaries looked very different in 2015. The ones that people were picking up either had like a dark romance spin, or it was a motorcycle club romance, or historical romance, or there was always something more to it. And I don't want to say always, like Confess obviously is just a regular contemporary, but just the kinds of lighthearted reads that also focus on like mental health and harder hitting topics in such a different way, it just didn't, I don't want to say it didn't exist, but I definitely didn't see it, and it definitely wasn't on this particular list. So it's cool to see, I guess, how things are evolving, how we are leaning more into the respectful, egalitarian sort of side of things with, relationship dynamics as well. And yeah, I am glad that I did this just for myself, to be honest. I don't know how much value this is bringing anyone else, but I had a really fun time reading some of these books, kind of reflecting on where I was in 2015. I was like a sophomore, junior in college, and I was reading, but not obviously as much as I do now. I definitely read some of these books or other books in the series for, some of these. I was reading 50 Shades, I was reading the Crossfire series, I was reading the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, I was reading The Deal, maybe not in 2015, but I was reading The Deal, and wow, what a time in my life. And I'm so glad that romance has, I don't want to say moved on, like I'm grateful for a lot of the books, that I read and or read for this video and, in my everyday life outside of this, but I think that it's really cool to see the direction romance is moving, and I would be so curious to see a decade from now what romance looks like. Are we still going to be so gung-ho about romantic books and, you know, these like fun contemporaries with like cowboys and, you know, billionaires, or are we going to be somewhere completely different? I am curious to see where things go. And I would love to know your predictions, I suppose, in the comments down below. If you could, let me know kind of what direction you see romance heading in, and where you think things are going to go. I honestly, I don't know, excited to be along for the ride. Thanks for watching this. I know it was a little chaotic. I was hoping to come to some grander conclusions, but I don't think it's much of a surprise that the books that I read for this video are not as good as the Goodreads Choice Award nominees that are more contemporary. And by contemporary, I obviously mean published, you know, in 2024. Thanks for watching this video. I honestly have a deep desire to do a video on each year of the Goodreads Choice Awards, but we'll see if that ends up happening. Thanks for watching this. I love y'all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.